Hey guys, Ben from Stonker in Torquay. Got with me Master Downwinder Charlie Thornton, team rider for Stonker, Armstrong at the moment. Stonker / Armstrong. Welcome, Charlie.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Now, given that you are a master at downwinding, been at it for what?
A year, and a master's definitely a push, but yeah, intermediate definitely.
Let's run with master for now. So last night I went out for my first little downwind run here at the point, locally on the surf coast. It's called the Gap Lap.
Yeah.
Gap Lap. Wasn't quite a lap in the end, but
yeah. Did
got
you make it to the June or came in a bit earlier?
came in a bit later.
A bit later, yeah. So the west affected you.
Upwind, up the beach.
Yeah.
So
that's hard.
that was difficult, especially when you're knackered.
Arms are dead, shoulders are gone, you got to walk into that wind. Yeah, it's brutal.
So really good to tick the box. Awesome to tick the box on the first downwind run. Thanks to Aaron too, local guy, for giving me a lift back.
Oh yeah.
Just a few questions though regarding the first run.
Yeah.
Only 105 questions. How long have you got?
Oh, I would make it all day.
Getting back into it soon. So, first of all, I had the 8'1" Armstrong board, so 128 litres, beautiful board.
Perfect. Sounds like a good volume for your weight.
Yeah. So I'm about 92 kilograms.
Yeah.
90 on a good day. A little bit narrower than usual, these boards.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to note. I think 20 and 3/4 wide.
Yeah.
So in terms of narrowness, it's only the downwind performance boards that get narrower.
No, like that 20-21 range is really good for your first runs. You need that width. And you're talking months before you start thinking about coming down to an 18 or like a performance 17, 16. So great starting point.
And just that extra planing speed, easier to take off, in theory.
Always in theory.
In addition to that, so the 8'1" Armstrong downwind board, the 795 performance mast as well, in combination with APF 1675. I think that's a 70 centimetre fuse by the looks of it. And I had the Glide 220 tail on the back, and then the Stonker carbon fibre paddle, so super light that paddle. But 795, obviously 72 felt a little bit too short. 865 I used for winging, a little bit too long, so 795 in the sweet spot.
Kind of sweet spot. The guys out there, they're racing kind of 75 as their ideal length, but that little bit extra, 5 centimetres, is just so useful to stop those breaches. So yeah, that's what I'm riding as well, and I wouldn't go anywhere else.
And high modulus as well, so nice and stiff, nice and rigid, just everything you want in the board.
Essential once you move up to these big wings, because on a small A+ mast you'll just be flexing like crazy, and it'll make the uncontrollability even worse, which you need everything on your side at this point.
So unfortunately, there's no real getting around the high modulus carbon fibre mast if you want a downwind.
Unless you're super lightweight, that's kind of, so
sub 70 kilos.
If you're sub 70, you'll make it work. But it's also not just the flex, the high performance mast is also slimmer, so you're more efficient cutting through the water. So it's a double kind of whammy.
Going through my list of questions, 1,000,001 questions. Do you think the aluminium alloy mast would be okay or too heavy?
The weight isn't an issue. There's tons of guys down here on this coast that are riding aluminium and making it work. So yeah, that's definitely a viable option if you're starting out, if you don't want to, jump in on the big high modulus mast. But at the end of the day, this is the best you're going to get. And when you're downwinding, you really do. You're counting the percentages, and that's probably a 5% boost. So you want that 5% boost.
Every inch you can get, especially after last night. It's a whole new ball game. Like the fitness, the strength, the power just blew me away.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. I do think like your wing pairing here, awesome. With these APFs, you definitely want to put a bigger tail on them and slow them down, kind of match the speed.
So bigger than the Glide 220?
Look, to start out, where I had my most success on the 1675 as a really light sub 70 kilo person was putting on the old 232 tail. That's just like the great sweet spot for me, where both were moving at the same speed, both locked in really well. I've tried faster tails on this setup and it just feels way too loose. You've got too much going on. So the 220, the 232, they're a good mix. Yeah.
So we don't have the 232 then, the 235 flow as well.
Yeah, I haven't tried it, but in the same vein, it's a good area for how it should work. You would have felt this yesterday. It's a big wing to have out in the ocean. So
that was my next question.
Yeah.
Just like to grab, pulling in one direction, pulling in the next.
Yeah,
we're off the back, you're off the sides.
we're lucky in that our gap glat kind of starts behind a reef, so we've kind of had most of the swell not taken out, it's still there, but it's reduced. So it's kind of halfway to a bay kind of scenario. But for me, where the APFs really shine is on the bay. So, and this is probably where you should be doing your first laps as well. Just everything, all the wind bump and everything is so aligned and regular, you can really get into a rhythm. You're not then fighting the ocean. Because as you say, when you have these big wings out on the ocean, the warp coming from the swell across the wind line is, it can be pretty horrific.
Yeah. It's pretty brutal for your first,
Yeah.
first run. So you recommend the bay if you're going to use these?
If you're going to use the APFs, get on the bay, definitely. And that's also, you want a day when it's not going to be crossed up on the bay. So ideally the wind's been blowing one direction for hours. You don't want something that's, you're catching the swing so the direction's right for the downwind run.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to make it harder. So try to get a really consistent, good forecast.
And in terms of speed and power, had the mast on number 5 here, which is backward of centre for Armstrong. It's probably 2/3 of the way back in terms of the forward box. So is that too far back? Depends on conditions.
No, I think that's pretty good. If it was me riding it, and this is the thing, and everyone's so different, I would have pushed it. I would have had to have pushed it even further back. But that's just a weight thing, holding the APFs down. For me to accelerate the APF takes a lot of work, so I need it just about as far back as I can get them. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's interesting. So you're back on what, 3, 2?
Yeah, big threes. So
if you were riding an Armstrong board.
So I find with most of the Armstrong gear, when I'm changing front wings, if it's the old HAs to the new HAs, it's all very similar. I leave my mast placement where it is, but because the APFs have such a wide chord on them, the actual centre of lift moves dramatically in relation to the other wings. So you actually do have to move it back a bit in general.
Right. So no issues there?
No, that's totally workable. Yeah.
Okay. I felt like it was just such a drag on me, and I felt like the next run I could put it forward more aggressively to number 8 or something, forward of centre. But that's just going to lead to aggressive nose lift, isn't it?
Yeah, so you've got two ends of the spectrum. You're either burying the nose constantly because your body weight on the padlock is too far forward, or the board's jumping out of the water on you. And so you're just trying to find that sweet middle ground. And unfortunately, every day in the ocean is going to be different. It's going to need a slightly different tweak to make it work, but it's just trial and error until you find that spot for your weight. Yeah.
So next run, ideally in the bay, keep the APF 1675, keep the mast. Number 5, run with the 795.
Keep it where it is. That all looks pretty good. It'll just be get in the bay and get those pop-ups going. So when you're starting out, this wing doesn't want to run with the swell. It's a slow wing. It's made for pumping. But at this point in your journey, you just want to be getting out of the water. You just want to be practicing those pop-ups. So
and perhaps take on a flow 235 tail.
Just something that's got a bit more bite. Like this is still a great tail because it's got the span on it. But something that's got a bit more chord that'll match the chord of the APF. It just kind of suits better.
Cool. Waist leash. Do you use the waist leash?
Waist leash, yeah.
You want that strength.
Yeah, you want that strength.
You don't want to start pulling on your leg when you come off.
No, and a good tip with the waist leash, if you have them coming straight out the back of you, you'll find yourself tangling your legs in them when you climb back on the board. If you turn it to the downwind side, for me, I get those tangles. Right. So you just want the leash coming out the side of you.
Good point.
Yeah.
That was actually getting in the way last night.
It's infuriating.
Between your legs, it's around your ankles.
So much going on, and then you add that to it, and it's just like,
I may even do that for the wing foil too, because it does get in the way sometimes. All good tips. So let's say fast forward, smashing it in the bay one day. Getting out
too far.
Getting some power, getting some bumps. I want to go back to the ocean, back out to the point. What am I going to be looking at then?
I'd say jump straight to the 1180. So your next
1180,
and that's when you'll start to get the speed back from the APF. And once you've got that speed, all of a sudden you can hold on to the bump, ride the bump, and you're on with it then.
So HA 1180 is going to have the characteristics of. So I mean, the new HA range from Armstrong has a lower stall speed. Because of the fatter section.
Super friendly on the low end. And so, for reference, at 70 kilos, the 1180 is really hard for me to accelerate, but at your weight, it'll be so nice. Okay. So that's your wing pretty much.
More weight, more movement.
as you've got something to push down and load the wing with, and with that you can just accelerate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else to work on outside the full kit? Like, do you go to the gym? Are you benching 100 kilograms?
Yeah, so there is some secrets to it.
Yeah.
And for me, I generally try to run 30k a week.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
So
running?
hard running.
Right.
Just super aerobic. Not so important at this stage. For you at the moment, you just want to be building up paddle strength.
Uh-huh.
The great thing about that is you can just go surfing.
Yeah.
You'll get that paddle strength. And then after that, once you're up and foiling, that's when the aerobics come into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, running's about the best thing. Just
Right.
smashing it.
30k a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know the guys that are racing in Hawaii, they get on the ergos, but I can't do that to myself.
Yeah, okay.
That's too much torture.
I was actually thinking ergo or rowing machine or something.
Yeah.
In addition to, because the aerobic fitness is just crazy.
That's it. You just need to be doing aerobic leg work.
I mean, the gap run, when you nail it, will take you how long?
10 minutes?
10
If
minutes.
that. Yeah.
It
Less.
took me about an hour and 10 yesterday of just paddling, falling, sizing up conditions.
Yeah.
It was nice to tick that first box, but yeah, came out of the water with so many questions.
Yeah.
Um,
And so sore. It's
Yeah.
just all the muscle work.
Sore in the
Stuff
lower
you don't
back.
know you're using.
constantly sort of holding that position.
Yeah.
How sold on do you get? That was another thing.
Sorry.
On the board, are you basically...
Windage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like a full surf stance. Probably can't see behind the camera, but you're holding a surf stance. And especially when you're starting, it's really important to get your feet out on the rails. So you kind of want your toe on the rail and your heel on the rail, and that way you've got the most authority over the board rolling. When you get better, you can start to pull it into more of a pump stance. But yeah, to start with, just go wide, go stable.
Right.
Get out.
So nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with
I
that.
feel my toes on the rail sometimes, and I
Yeah.
just think I'm doing this wrong.
No, that's like you want every advantage you can get, and so that extra stability is just so beneficial.
And you just mentioned sup surfing before, foil surfing.
Yep.
So I've been doing a lot of that.
Perfect.
I thought those skills would translate. I just felt like probably need to be trying to pump up and get into really, really small waves as opposed to bigger waves that just kind of send you straight away.
Yeah, so the best sessions for learning is when the surf looks really average and you don't really want to get in. When it's barely breaking and the tops are just feathering on them.
Yeah.
Because essentially, and like a lot of people jump into the bay runs way too early and suffer, and the ocean, same thing. And the key really to know that your paddle up is there is to go out on a small day where it's barely breaking and pretty much outrun the wave with your paddle stroke. And once you're paddling up in front of the wave and kind of launching with it, that's a great sign that you're going to have success elsewhere on the downwind runs.
So it goes to show some of the speed that you need, doesn't it? If you're
Yeah.
looking to out paddle the wave.
But it's not just speed, it's because you're talking a small day where everything's moving a bit slower, it's also the strength and the timing.
Yeah.
Because you want to be putting in those like 3 good strokes right when that wave's coming through on you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, another tip. Just for my sup surfing activities, I noticed my paddle was
Oh yeah. It's a good bit of a head height.
more like, it is actually. I thought I cut it down enough,
Yeah.
but I clearly haven't. But initially it was here, getting a lot of pain in the elbow here, which can be incredibly painful.
Yeah.
Like
That
that's
clutch
Panadol
pain.
after a session type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I ended up cutting it down. That solved all those issues, thankfully. So I was just going to say, if you're getting that pain, usually happens in the left elbow actually, I find. Cut down your paddle. So what would be the ideal height?
So rule of thumb with generally everyone's running at about forehead height.
So this can come down another,
Probably an inch and a half.
another inch and a half.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But on top of that, best thing you can do is get an old adjustable paddle and just play with the length until you're happy, and then go and on a nice, stiff carbon paddle, then you don't cut it to length once you've kind of found your spot.
Just be wary of polished handles.
Yeah.
Fiberglass paddle.
That's it.
Because they can get real slippery.
Real slippery.
So you may have to sand it back a bit for grip.
Yeah, other guys have just taped their paddle
Yep.
shaft so they know exactly where their hand should be. You
Uh-huh.
can always find the spot. Just get a nice textured tape.
Actually, that's another good question.
Mm.
So hand on the top, how far is this bottom hand down the paddle when you're really going for it?
It completely depends on the stroke you're after. So if you're whacking it, you may be putting more power down and having a lower second hand, but if you're up and like paddle pumping, you kind of want that extra reach length, and then you're pulling your hand up, putting the paddle deeper. So it just depends on where you're at in your stroke. Yeah.
Good advice again. Thanks, Charlie. Best thing I do, I guess, from here is just to get out there and get another session in. As you say, it's all about time, commitment, consistency.
Yeah.
It can be hard if you've got kids at home, you've got full-time work, all the rest. So working out with your mates, which you're probably already doing. In terms of you, there's a WhatsApp group I know that helps you organise things down here on the coast. So I recommend joining a group.
That's it. It's already hard enough as a sport, so you want people to be in the journey with you, struggling with you, just to make it more fun. So and
share the struggle,
share the logistics. It makes it way more fun. So that's it. Find people that want to do the same things you want to do and chase after it.
Cool. And you're headed back out there today?
Hopefully, it's a bit west on the forecast, so maybe just some gap laps rather than sending anything big.
Oh, one more thing. I remember you said before, don't worry about the swell direction, worry about the wind direction when you're out there.
Yeah,
so I was trying to follow swell yesterday, which was coming into the point. So you recommend following wind direction? Yeah, it's really hard. Everyone in Downwind has come from a surfing background. We all are swell orientated, and that's how we think. Yeah. But you've just got to put the blinkers on. Go for the wind.
Yeah, it's really important. Just feel out where the wind is, know where it is, and you can. It's harder to see at the start, but as you get into it, you can see the bump running across the swell, and you've just got to zone in on that bump. And that's where the looking back isn't necessarily beneficial, because you might be looking back at the swell, which is what most people do, and they don't see the bump running underneath. So that's why some people suggest look forward and just follow the wind. Which is really difficult to do. That's what it's daily life. Yeah. I kept looking at these big lumps and bumps coming through and thinking, that's it. Next minute it's gone. So it almost requires, like for example, last night, you're almost paddling across the swell line. Yeah, you might find yourself at 45 degrees, and that's when it gets hard, because a wing like this is getting warped by that swell. But at the end of the day, that's the way you're going to get up. If you chase the swell, you're never going to get up. Okay. So, well, you might get a really lucky peak, but you've got to be after that wing line chip in. Awesome, Charlie. All good advice. Hope that helps. Just a short little. Hopefully, the next video is a clean run out in the ocean. I've got some bad news. Yeah. I think it's going to take at least a dozen runs in the bay, isn't it? It's to really get a handle on it. Some guys can do it first go. Some freaks. Yeah. One guy on the coast, we won't name his name. But just a lot of hard work, persistence, isn't it? A lot of hard work and a lot of skills to develop. So how many sessions did it take for you to get up on foil? Go home with a smile on your face? I'd say at least 5. Yeah, maybe 10. And that's coming at it with great pump background and thinking of adjacent skills. So and 5 is a lot, because you're looking at a couple of hours for each session. So we're looking at about 10 to 15 hours. Yeah, it's a time commitment, but I can tell you it's worth it. That's I can definitely see the benefit. I can see the benefit of going way up the coast, cruising down, sort of 12, 15k. From a enjoyment part of it, definitely, but starting out, keep it small, because you've kind of got half an hour to an hour where you're effective, and beyond that point, you're so tired and exhausted, your muscles are aching, that you've got to get nowhere. So for those initial runs, keep them short, less than 5Ks, ideally around 3. Yeah, that's it. Gap lap is ideal. Ideal. That's what guys do. Put an hour in, and by the end of the hour, you're done, busted, but you've had a good run in. Yeah, cool. All awesome advice, Charlie. Thanks very much for dropping in at Stonker. Anytime. Taking time out of the water. Much appreciated. Ben from Stonker, Charlie, our team writer for Stonker / Armstrong. Hit us up with any questions. Give us a call at the shop, 035 261 6077, stonker.com.au. Otherwise, see you in the water. Catch ya.